And Mr. Dowdy, we are ready.
Good evening. Welcome to the District 225 Board of Education meeting. Madam Secretary, would you please read the roll?
Mr. Glowacki,
Present.
Ms. Mullenbeck. Here. Mr. O'Hara, Ms. Segwin, Mr. Schein,
Present.
Dr. Steinberg, Mr. Dowdy,
Here.
4 members present.
Item 2 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, and particularly welcome to a bunch of our students. I'm guessing civics class. We'll always welcome you and get a chance to see one of your public bodies at work. Tonight, we have a relatively short agenda. We have our typical opening items of community comment, board and superintendent reports, and consent. Will be followed also by the annual budget hearing and vote on that. And then we have one item on our regular agenda, which is our curriculum report. And after that, we'll go into closed session. By that point, we'll ask you to depart. So again, welcome to everyone tonight. We're very glad to have everyone there. Item 3 on our agenda is recognition of community visitors. Do we have any tonight, Dr. Johns?
We have none this evening.
Just to remind people, we always welcome participation from the public at our meetings as well as in between meetings. That input is always deeply valued by our board. So anyone who ever wants to reach out, please do either at our meeting or at a different time is fine as well. Item 4 on our agenda are our board and superintendent reports. Dr. Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Dowdy. I'll go very briefly because I know the schools have quite a bit to share because it's a busy time of year. Just wanted to share with the board on Thursday, I attended the Cook County Commissioners meeting to join 25 other superintendents who were able to find time in their schedules to encourage Cook County Board to repeal its ordinance on the paid time off paid time off ordinance that will be coming into effect in January of 2025. This would require us to offer or provide an undesignated hour of paid time off for every 40 hours that an employee works. Our union employees, because they're on a contract, would not be provided this benefit. It would be for anyone who's not in a non-union status, including substitutes, student workers, out-of-district coaches. This would cost our district hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I, along with 91 other Cook County superintendents representing over almost 250,000 students in Cook County and 68% of the Cook County districts, have encouraged an amendment to this bill so that it's consistent with state law, which exempts park districts and school districts, because financially this is a huge hit for school districts and park districts. Our own Commissioner Britton has written this amendment. We're encouraging him to keep up the good fight because it is really important for us, for our economic stability moving forward, that we get exempted from this. Other than that, I'll turn it over to the principals with the great news that they have to share of the wonderful things going on in the buildings. We'll start off with Glenbrook North with Ms. Hughes.
We're sharing microphones. Sorry. Thank you for that. So it's been a fun week at Glenbrook North. We just finished homecoming week, but before we really dive into that, I wanted to share a couple of other updates about some additional athletic updates and a particular story from one of our students. Our girls tennis team finished in 4th place this past weekend in the 32-team Buffalo Grove tournament, which is easily the most competitive tournament of the regular season. Our girls golf team is 5-0 in the CSL competition, and we're hosting the conference championship this Wednesday at the Wilmette Golf Course. And for boys golf, we're currently 4-0 in conference play. We play the conference championship this Wednesday at Heritage Oaks Golf Course. And we'll talk about some of the other homecoming things in a moment. But what I wanted to start by sharing about NBC 5 featured one of our students, David Arts, who's a sophomore, on the Mental Health Monday news segment a couple Mondays ago. And he shared his story about personal and mental health and how important kindness is for all in order to prevent bullying behavior. I would really encourage you to take a moment to search this video and hear David's story. He was a wonderful advocate for mental health and is very interested in presenting this message beyond our school, which has been really great. He was very excited to talk about his journey. This week with homecoming, we had a fantastic week. A couple of things I wanted to highlight was the way we showcased music and students in our American Sign Language courses at the assembly. We had probably one of our most attended assemblies in a long time for homecoming, which was really great. It was a packed house. And we had one really fun activity where students used their cell phones in a really positive way to do a flashlight wave across the gym. So that was a lot of fun. In addition, our opening national anthem was sung by one of our students from the choir, as well as in the background, we had our American Sign Language students signing the national anthem, which was really great. Some other fun things about homecoming, we had our golf cart parade, which was really great. A lot of howdy rowdy themes with the golf carts, including one student who was pulling his golf cart along. They had little reins on there. Our football team beat Conant, which was a great win for our homecoming football game. We celebrated with some fireworks and had a great dance experience on Saturday. Finally, I also wanted to share one special note about the alumni recognitions that we had over the weekend. So we welcomed back the class of 1974 for their 50th and 50th reunion, including a special highlight to the 74 championship football team. So they were recognized at our assembly and at the game. It was a lot of fun to have them all back and to be a part of the team. They joined in the huddle a couple times and had a really great experience with all of that. But on Saturday, we welcomed the classes of 74, 84, and 94 for tours throughout the building to see the updates. And the numbers of the tours just kept growing as we went along. So it seemed like the word was spreading and people were coming. So we had a great time leading tours. I know Dr. Solis was leading one of the tours and Ms. Sponner was also leading one of the tours. I'm still learning all the ins and outs of the building and the history. So I'm still following along and taking lots of notes throughout the tours. So I'll get there to be on my own soon, but it was a great time. So we met lots of interesting people, but I did have a fangirl moment. I wanted to just say I got a chance to meet Ed McNally, who is the author of the Spartan Creed, which is the plaque that's in the front hall of Glenbrook North. So I included that. I had a little selfie moment with him, which I was pleased he indulged me in. And then we also wanted to say thank you to our NHS students who served as tour guides and helpers throughout that time. It was a great way for our students to see not only is homecoming a lot of fun for us in the building, but it is a really special time to honor the legacy of all of those who have attended GBN before us. So we had a wonderful week.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. So before I transition to just the Glenbrook South principal update, I do want to take a moment to celebrate all of the students in District 225 who were just released as the 2024 National Merit semifinalists. Out of 16,000 students across the nation, Glenbrook North had 12 and Glenbrook South had 6 students that were honored as National Merit semifinalists. This is an incredible achievement for these young men and women. It is incredibly difficult to earn this honor. Ahead of them, they have an application process that both schools will be supporting those students to complete to see if in the end they are recognized as finalists nationwide. Ms. Hughes and I will be honoring these students for each of our buildings in our upcoming October newsletter to the community, but we're incredibly proud of all of them. Well, this week is homecoming for Glenbrook South. We kicked it off last Friday with our kickoff assembly. It was a really lovely reboot to how the Student Council is hosting our assemblies this year. Traditionally, Glenbrook South had our assemblies that were focused tied to the athletic seasons, fall, winter, and spring athletic assemblies. And with the guidance of our Student Council leadership, the students decided to reboot the assembly to be more inclusive of all of our activities that are also housed at Glenbrook South, and they're rotating through representing the approximately 150 activities that we host at GBS. So they were honored similar to how some of our athletic teams have been honored historically, and our TV broadcasting kids did an absolutely phenomenal job of representing them alongside all of the typical video clips they have of each of our seasonal sports. So it was a very fun assembly. It was a little warm in the dome. We were all sweating a little bit. But it was a fantastic kickoff to homecoming week. This morning, everybody started in their red-eye pajamas. We are Destination South, so we are a traveling week of theme. So everybody was in whatever they would travel in comfortably if they were coming back from some wonderful vacation somewhere. Throughout the week, we have a variety of things. My favorite one I'm looking forward to is Anything But a Backpack Day. I can't wait to see what the kids come up with. It will be a lot of fun. Today, there's a photograph. I took that after school. It was, we probably needed a geometry teacher present, to be honest, in reflection. But it was getting all of our floats into the auto shop. So each of the 4 classes can begin their float building. But it was all hands on deck trying to maneuver those carefully into each bay so the students could start to build. Our homecoming parade will take place on Saturday, so they only have a few short days to build them and paint them and have the paint dry and have everything operate. So I can't wait to see what they all design. Our homecoming game will be Friday night against Evanston, and the dance will take place on Saturday. So we're looking forward to a great week. One of the other fun things about this week that we always try to align is our exchange with our Spanish sister schools. We have 2 schools in Spain that we host an exchange with. This is an 11-year partnership between Glenbrook South and these students. In fact, this morning it was so lovely to see the staff who've traveled here over the years come back again. And they always try to schedule coming during homecoming week because it's such a unique week to visit an American school. So this is when they arrived late Sunday night after 3 hours in customs at O'Hare Airport. But they are excited and joyful, and they are shadowing our students for the next 10 days. I would like to give a shout out to DJ Franson and Mark Bauman. They coordinate this week for the World Language Department, and I would like to give my sincerest gratitude to all the Glenbrook South families who host these students in their home for these 10 days. It's an extraordinary cultural exchange, and I'm grateful that we have this opportunity for our students. Some quick updates over in athletics. It's been a great couple weeks. Girls swimming and diving has beat Maine East. Field hockey had 2 wins against Latin and Lake Forest. And our number 2 ranked soccer team, boys soccer team, continues to be undefeated, beating number 7 Maine South this past weekend. Varsity record is 12-0. And this week they're going to host the number 3 ranked Evanston Wildcats on Thursday at 7 p.m. for Teacher Appreciation Night. And then they are off to travel to Davenport, Iowa for the Great River Classic Tournament. So we're looking forward to see what these gentlemen will accomplish this season. They are on a great roll. Thank you.
Thank you, principals. We appreciate the updates. That's it, Mr. Doughty.
That is a terrific report. Board members, anything you want to share tonight?
I was just going to add a number of students that were involved in the GBN assembly. Really appreciated meeting all the 1974 people that came out to support the team and everything. And it was just surprising. It came unfiltered, unsolicited, that they just came up and said, oh, we had a great time, and the stories that they shared. So just wanted to share that with you.
I'll add that I had the privilege via my wife to go to the 1984 40th reunion on Saturday night. It was packed and people were happy, and it was great to see the spirit that the school was part of starting 40 years ago, and they had it was a really good time. So I'm not surprised you felt that spirit, Ms. Hughes, on the weekend. They were talking about the tour, in fact, and there were, of course, a few changes since then for those who hadn't been here for a while. Thank you very much for the reports, everybody. We move to item 5 on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Dr. Johns, are there any changes?
There's no changes to the
Okay.
consent agenda.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
Mr. Glowacki,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Schein,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Doughty,
Yes.
motion carries.
Item 6 on our agenda is our 2020 or 2025 fiscal year budget. We're going to begin with item 6.1, which is the public hearing on the budget. So at this time, I'm opening the hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year 2024-25. The tentative budget was previously discussed by the Board of Education on Monday, August 12th. 2024, and was made available for public inspection the following day, Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? I see none. I will therefore entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the tentative budget.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Schein,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Glowacki,
Yes.
Mr. Dowdy,
Yes.
motion carries.
So with a vote of 5-0, I declare the hearing on the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 closed. We will now move to item 6.2 on the agenda, which is adoption of the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget. And this is the time we will formally consider approval of the budget. Dr. Gravel is here and to answer questions. Dr. Gravel, first let me ask, are there any additional information that you want to offer at this point?
No additional information at this time. I know Dr. Johns was going to make just a comment about the structure of the budget document before you, but just also to share that we've received no questions from the community.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gravel. Dr. Johns?
The only additional piece that I would want to call the board's attention to is the inclusion of the reconciliation document that includes the information, the updated information for the CCPRT. There's changes that are significant to us that can be found on the print page 44 through 45, which would be PDF pages 54 through 55. Also, we've had no public comments since the release to the public on August 13th.
And with the changes on the CCPRT, is that offset otherwise? Is it something we can handle, Dr. Gravel?
Yes, CPPRT is Corporate Personal Property Replacement Tax. The Illinois Department of Revenue provides an estimate, and we found that we had a variance from our budgeted amount. However, we also had an increase of about the same amount in property tax estimates by factoring in new construction. So we have an offset and we're maintaining a balanced budget with the exception of the purposeful use of fund balance that the board previously.
But we
approved.
expected the purposeful use of fund balance. Fair enough. Members of the board, any questions on the budget? Ms. Malbec? Okay. Seeing no additional questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve the 24-25 budget.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
Mr. Schein,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Glowacki,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Dowdy,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, we have a budget, and I just want to underscore for everybody how much we appreciate the work that Dr. Gravel and Ms. Tarver and so many others who are not here do on this. It's a huge undertaking, and our budgeting process is really done superbly. So we're very, very fortunate to have the work available. So thank you again for all the efforts on that. Item 7 on our agenda is discussion action agenda. There is only one item tonight. It is our curriculum improvement report for 2024-2025. Dr. Johns.
Thank you. This is an information item this evening. Partially due to the Accelerated Placement Act, we've chosen to reboot our curriculum review process to accommodate some of those changes. And that began with what we call phase 1. Phase 1 is a different approach of aligning our curriculum to give us a good, consistent start across the district. And this has been a Herculean effort led by Dr. Jeezy and particularly by Mr. Bretag, who's worked diligently with the associate principals, the instructional supervisors, and the staff to really bring the district together to find clarity in our curriculum as it stands across Willow Road and to find ways that we can be consistent in our course names, course descriptions, and our pre and co-curriculars. And that's just touches the surface. So I'm going to ask Dr. Idrizi and Mr. Bretag to give more details. They walk us through both the process they've just taken us through, which truly is pretty incredible amount of work, but then also the steps that have to come. It looks like Mr. Bretag's ready, if you would. Dr. Idrizi.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Johns. I just want to echo how proud I am of the work led by Ryan Bretag, our APs of teaching and learning, and all instructional supervisors have done in leading those curriculum efforts. With us in the audience today is also Joyce Kim and Ed Solis, and who are here supporting Ryan in those efforts here. Through Ryan's collaboration with our instructional leaders, we have made significant strides towards achieving a consistent curriculum experience across our schools. And without further ado, Ryan, please share the curricular work you have led in phase one and what lies ahead of us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I feel honored to be the one sharing the work that has absolutely been tremendous, again, by these two, Cameron Muir and our instructional leaders. Just to ground us a little bit, as a reminder, we typically have had our ISs as part of the curriculum report, and they do presentations that are focused on how this is what is happening in their departments. We have restructured a little bit, as Dr. Johns mentioned, but this is just seeing an overview of the timeline and the excitement that we have that it will now follow a tremendous process of getting us from this curriculum report through new courses and new textbooks. But phase one of this process is really tied to this overall vision of curricular alignment. And for us, when we did this work, we wanted to center on starting with how are we aligned with our courses? So we started with course offerings. That was phase one. And this started 2 years ago. Phase two moved to, and we just started this year, our procedures for curriculum. And then as we progress towards the end of this year, we'll move into the final phase, which is the actual curriculum map process. So where are we? What have we achieved? So phase one was the course alignment structure. When we started this process, our hope was that we would be nearing 80% course alignment towards the end of the process. With great excitement, I can tell you we've actually eclipsed that. We are 80% aligned with our courses and then conceptually aligned with another 5%. So that, and I'll explain what that means in a second, but ultimately we are around 85% course alignment, meaning that courses between North and South are aligned in terms of course description, titles, prerequisites, credits, the length of the course, and honors designations. That work has been tremendous to get to that point. Watching our ISs, our curriculum teams working through this process, there are decades of, I wouldn't call it misalignment, I would call it more of a real strong tie to the building and what they believe a course represents. So to see these professionals come together, have deep, rich discussions about what's best for students in the Glenbrooks was really tremendous to witness. And what do I mean by conceptually aligned? Just to give you a real simple example. We had moments where, as we did this work, we found that some language was really the barrier, historical language. So choir is a great example. Between GBN and GBS, there's just different names that are tied not only to the course, but to how they go about the process of being part of different choir organizations, different competitions. So what we've done is we looked at, are we conceptually aligned? And we are, with the description, the credit, the designations. The only difference there would be the titles are just slightly different because of the name of the particular group. But ultimately, that 5% has that type of alignment in there. But we definitely wanted to call that and highlight that there is a slight difference. So what does all this actually mean? Well, these are the impacts that we are about to share community-wide. Number one, there's a consistent course experience across our schools. Again, 85% consistency. That is a tremendous growth for our district. There's also an enhanced course selection process. By that, we have, as you can see by the images and hopefully better on the papers in front of you, we have a common course guide for the district. This will be the first time our course guide, or what some have called historically a curriculum guide, that we have one for the district that is shared between both buildings. So that is highlighting the consistency, highlighting the experience that we want for all Glenbrook students, regardless if you're blue or if you're green. And finally, because of this work, you've heard a lot about this wonderful program called School Links. And with that, we're able to now move for our students an enhanced 4-year process across the district in student services and amongst our curricular departments because of this alignment work. Students can go on, have a common experience, understand their 4-year planning cycle. You'll hear a lot more about this, see a nice demo in the months ahead, but wanted to highlight that we are ready to begin the process of bringing this forward to our students and our families. This is another tremendous effort that without that course alignment work done by our ISs simply would not be possible. So briefly, you'll hear about phase 2 and phase 3 more as we get progressing in those areas. But phase 2 has begun this year. This is where, again, we're talking about procedures, aligning our curriculum procedures. We have begun what's known as a curriculum audit. You can see a little image there on your pages that shows a little bit about what that's doing. But ultimately, it's showing us where are we and where are our potential gaps. And in that, we have already refined our processes. Number one, our application for curricular change. Given the tremendous work in phase 1, we wanted to make sure that that continues when new courses are proposed. So we have refined that process to ensure ongoing collaboration, alignment where it makes sense, and conversations about honors designations, curriculum maps, syllabi. So we ensure as you're bringing new courses forward that phase 1 remains healthy. District-wide templates that we are already beginning based upon our work, a common course syllabus template, a common course or curriculum map template, and finally, an honors expectation template. One of the things that emerged from phase 1 that was very important was how do we help families understand our different levels? When we say it's an honors class, or it's a college and career readiness level, or it's an enriched honors, what do those mean? What are the differences? So there was tremendous work done by our ISs to understand those different levels and then to embed that contextually in what the students will experience. So that's been done, and as part of that template, that will allow any honors course to actually have those expectations that they can share with students now. Finally, phase 3. Now, phase 3 has not begun. Phase 3 will hopefully begin this January. That's the intended target, but it will focus on the adoption of something known as understanding by design. It is the most commonly used, most research-based curriculum mapping approach. What you, over the documents and different conversations, you might hear it referred to as UBD or backwards design. It all is tied to this notion of understanding by design. Essentially, we start with questions. What do we want students to learn? Once we know that, we work it backwards from there. How will we assess them on what we want them to learn? And then how will we engage them in said learning? Sounds overly simplistic. It's a challenging approach. As you can see on the right, what that requires would be standards, enduring understandings, what are the essential questions for this class, and what are the skills and knowledge you'll gain while in here. These are all pieces that will begin. That's long-term, 3 to 5 years worth of work. In the short term, we begin again this January with all of our instructional leaders, primarily our ISs, going through professional development on understanding by design. And then once they've completed their professional development, we will then shift to a pilot team, a pilot curricular team of teachers led by the IS, where they will review the templates for the district and modify them for what's best for the Glenbrooks. That will be a collective process facilitated by the ISs. It's iterative, It will take some time, but we're proud of the effort that the actual template will be designed by ISs and teachers as part of this process. So that is our curriculum report update for the year. Are there any questions?
Dr. Johns, anything to add?
I thought that was great. Dr. Drizzi, any pieces you'd like to add to it?
No, thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay. Thank you for this report, Mr. Butag and Dr. Drizzi, and I'm sure others who are involved. Dr. Sleason, Ms. Kim, and I think you said Mr. Muir also was involved. So thank you for all of your efforts. It's great to see the district come together in such a, it can't get more critical than our curriculum. And that's not going to, I think, do anything to harm the wonderful individual traditions and histories and so forth of the schools, but to have the curriculum, which is already strong at both schools, taking the best of both is tremendous. I just have one question. In terms of rolling it out for the families, I know you've got ISs involved and so forth. Is there, you can just tell us briefly what the plan is for families to understand this?
Correct. There's two pieces of importance for families. When we back up to phase one, they're going to experience that course alignment the moment we begin the communication process with student services about course selection. So one of the key components of that communication will be, here's your new curriculum guide, how that functions as you go into school links. So that will be the communication channel. We're not going to highlight it specifically. We want to embed it in the process that they're used to, which begins this November.
Okay. Just make sure we're aware, because change always can rattle people and it shouldn't. This is all good change. So thank you very much. Board members, any questions or comments, Ms. Mullenbuck?
This is great work and really fundamental, I think. And I got a little glimpse of your massive document at
Yes,
a
you
meeting
did.
we had the other day, and it's just the amount of detail and attention to detail and really drilling down. It's very impressive. So kudos to you and your team. I did have a question about co-curricular classes and how they're being handled in this. Are they just going to be part of this just like any other class?
Correct.
Okay. And we'll have these robust syllabi and curriculum maps and things like that. 'Cause I think
Correct.
that's something that was kind of a weakness with some of that programming before.
Correct. So the audit is all inclusive in that front. And then from there, as ISs identify, you have the APA priority. You have where they feel there are opportunities for growth. And so they'll be identifying specifically where those pieces they feel is most important. Our associate principals will be part of that. And then myself from the district level will look at the different themes that are emerging. So we know where to put our resources.
And then the other question I had is, I just feel like right now we have a lot of moving parts with APA happening and this all happening simultaneously. And if I understand where we are with APA, we'll have next year's incoming class be on that system, the inaugural class, as it were.
Correct.
How will that work? They're still going to all be on the same curriculum, but are they going to be different messaging, different understanding of what's happening? I just want to make sure that
Mhm.
with everything, with all the change, which can be hard,
Yes.
that we're making it as easy as possible for students and families to understand where they are in the process and what they can expect as they move through it.
Absolutely. There's no question there will be questions, interest, intrigue, and where we need to put our energies lie in the process of developing that 4-year plan and the course selection process. So starting this November through February, that's where that in-depth process will occur. And for our 8th graders, that's where some of this impact is going to be felt most, obviously with APA, but as well as we've done this curriculum audit, a lot of our instructional supervisors are already saying they are putting their energy into that 9th grade curriculum because that's where APA is phasing in. Now, that's not everyone, but primarily they're looking at that 9th grade year. And if nothing more, refinement. Our work doesn't require a complete rebuild of our curriculum. It's a lot of refinement work. So from that front, we feel very comfortable with the process that we're undertaking. And with the phased-in process, that's going to allow us to essentially move this curriculum work that you're seeing along with the APA work. I think you will see some of the quote unquote non-AP academic areas working in different compartments, for instance, the senior year and working backwards because of where electives lie.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I guess one last question. I'm just tying this all back to School Links. I would imagine as this process rolls out, there'll be learnings and discoveries that you need to make adjustments. Is School Links capable of that? Like, can it adjust to deal with whatever comes down the pike once you start actually, implementing and seeing, well, this might not work exactly the way we expected?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been working with School Links daily for 2 hours a day. That's different team members as we've built this out. And in that process, it's contingency plan, movement plan, but it's a learning entity. The system is built to evolve with us. So as we talked about way back when we went this direction, what does our community expect? That is what we need to meet. And what are the pieces we can evolve into? So while these feel a little separate, we are doing tremendous work of trying to create intersections and not get ahead of ourselves. Really align what's needed for parents and guardians to understand these changes in a system that's really clean, but not stretch the system so far that we're confusing people. So direct answer, yes. And that's what's really strong about this system, that it can evolve with us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Steinberg, any questions, comments?
Yes. Many things. Yeah, this looks good. And I know you're the face of it, but there's many people, there are many people involved. So commend this for everybody who's been involved in that. I have only one comment / question, which is I think the good challenge for this is going to be for new curriculum. So for everything that needs to be aligned, you have side A, side B, and so on. Sometimes they're really close, sometimes they're a little bit farther away. But I think this is a good opportunity to look at the procedures to create new curriculum, because sometimes it comes from one school or it comes from the other, and then we need to figure out, maybe this whole process help us to get even closer between IAs and people that develop curriculum. When we get the presentations from our supervisors, we always bring one from each school. And we know we do something very similar, but there are different tones within each school, which is great. I wonder if this will lead to more collaboration as we think. Sometimes one school will realize we need something that their school may not see it as much, and it will enrich both schools. And it would be nice if we leverage this into the creation part of the curriculum.
Yes, so inside of you'll see application for curricular change. Historically, it's asked one question at the top regarding collaboration. And that question has been, who did you collaborate with in the creation of this new curriculum or new course proposal? Now it's more robust. Not only is it asking your curricular team in your building, who did you work with in your sister school? Who are the outside agencies that you pulled in as you developed this proposal? And it even talks to the degree, if your sister school is not adopting this, what is the rationale? Did you consider their concerns? So that is a credit to our instructional supervisors who wanted that embedded, because they felt they did such tremendous work in phase one. And as we know, as retirements reach us, we want to continue that work with the next generation of leaders and lay that piece in place. So that is embedded inside now, and that's one of the pieces that I'm most proud of, that they came up with that and they wanted that.
That's great. And just to be clear, I agree. Not every class needs to be everywhere.
Correct.
And you talk about retirements. What about hiring? Sometimes we're going to hire somebody that comes with new ideas.
Yes.
But at least to give both buildings the opportunity to share the knowledge. And then
Correct.
each building to decide, do we want to incorporate this knowledge or not? We may do it differently. But like you mentioned, embedded in the process, it's a big step. So
Correct.
that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Steinberg. Mr. Schein?
Yeah, I guess I just want to thank all of you who went through this extraordinary effort and heavy lift for this is probably one of our longest duration initiatives, in that for many years, people sitting at this table have often asked the question, why is there a disparity between offerings at the respective schools? And even when they may have had, the courses may have been titled similarly, content and delivery varied widely. And what we would hear as well, Mr. Jones, believes in, doing it this way, and Mrs. Smith believes in doing it this way. And, the students learn either way, which is obviously true. But then we would hear feedback, well, why is this happening in this class? We're not doing that, et cetera. And it, when you sit and you're not a member of you're not in those classes, you think, gee, those actually, we really can't answer that. It's tradition. It's just how it's just been that way. And we have worked slowly, I think, over time through various initiatives to bring it more together. And it certainly has been, but this is really a strong systemic effort that also has the backing of staff. Because without that, you can have all the wonderful software and, steps and processes, and they just kind of find a way to come around the side and do it. They're like, sure, we'll be happy to do that. Okay, just close the door and, move on. So, I mean, I think it's a real testament to the whole organization, from the bottom up to be able to get to this point. And I think our students will really benefit. And I think we're going to find that there are opportunities happening out there that can be shared with more students and, staff as well. As you go through it, you're going to find these things, these little nuggets of greatness out there, and that can be kind of propagated through the system. So I'm really impressed, and I guess I'm surprised that there was not, or maybe there was. Maybe you've just overcome some pushback from staff. It seems like that, to bring this many people along and to collaborate and get them to see the vision and the benefit is, I think, really amazing. So thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it is important to say this wasn't without questions. And a lot of it was honoring that their work and the work of their colleagues at the sister school is valuable as well. That this isn't an initiative to say you must be on the same page. It's more of a challenge, what if you were? And opening that door for them to engage in those conversations. It takes the instructional supervisor's leadership. This group, this Board of Education, opened the door to them with the curriculum improvement process 3 years ago. I can tell you that was a springboard to this work, because they began telling their story to you and seeing the excitement as they told the story to you. That is tremendous. And the second piece of that is also part of this is working and showing what is happening outside of us that may be disadvantaging our kids. What is this course? We're running this course, and every other district it's receiving this kind of honors or this kind of credit. Wait a minute, why aren't we doing that? So I think it was just this opening the door to conversations they've wanted to have, but not a force that alignment is the only option. The only option is the collaboration.
It just seems like there's so much there when you look at what you're trying to accomplish, and then you layer on the state part where, and you'll forget me, I can't remember the vocabulary here, but of the honors, the AP, changing the designation and the course levels, doing all of that and bringing staff along, because that's not a choose to do, in that we are mandated on that one. And then you've got all this other stuff you really want to do, and somehow you've managed to merge all this. It's a very complicated story, and it's really tremendous.
That's very well put, and we all echo it. Mr. Glowacki.
I share my colleagues' enthusiasm and my appreciation in all the work that you and Dr. Andreas and everybody else have done to bring us forward this, because it is a lot of moving pieces and everything. And you kind of answered some of the questions already that one of my colleagues about the APA being factored in. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly, that that was factored in when we were looking at the new honors paths and everything. So
Correct.
we're already kind of a step ahead. But change is always difficult too. So given the work here with this curriculum, the families, I guess, which years will be mostly impacted? I know we discussed this in terms of APA, but in terms of this curriculum math, what may be the gaps or areas where there may be some confusion? Is it between the sophomore and juniors primarily at this stage, or all 3 years, freshmen, sophomore, juniors at both schools?
Inherent in this APA process, when you're phasing something in, there will be confusion that, wait a minute, the freshmen have this language, the other classes have that language. Again, it is so vital to us. It's critical that our communication during course selection process, during our articulation meetings with the 8th grade middle school and teachers, that's where we're going to solve a number of those pieces. But you asked about the gap.
Yeah, in terms of,
yeah.
as you were aligning and everything else outside of the APA, what are some potential areas where there may be some confusion that you anticipate? Is it sophomores dealing with math, or is it going to be the juniors dealing with the sciences?
My answer is probably going to surprise you. It's going to be in the elective areas.
Okay.
Because as we open the door to this understanding of honors that's built into some of our CCR, college and career readiness levels, that will be something new. I think it will be exciting for our families, but that comes with an education component. What does that mean? How does this work inside? I'm in this college and career readiness, but I have this opportunity. And so while we're excited about those opportunities, as we've talked about here a number of times, it will come with intrigue, curiosity, and to some degree, there might be some confusion. And that's up to us. That's part of why you see, I happen to be on that slide, the district-wide template of those honors expectations. We're trying to get ahead of that with that standardized template. So no matter which class, what class you're in, which designation of honors, you have a document in front of you that's really clear, and it's a consistent template. So you don't have to look, well, English is using this language, CT is using that language. Nope, it's consistent. It's going to take time, but I would say that's where we're going to need to put a lot of energy into. Our CTE ISs, our fine arts ISs are doing an exceptional job of recognizing that and carrying the torch forward with that initiative.
And then this is actually for RJ and Dr. Johns, in terms of if we could get a list of the 15% of courses that are not aligned someplace in a board section where we can reference them routinely on our intranet or something. It'd be good to know which of those are not in alignment as we're reviewing curriculums and stuff, just as a refresher.
Is that a static number? Is that the 85% the end point, or are you hoping to get to 90 or 92? That's not a leading question, just curious.
Yeah, we set a goal for 80% because as we looked, a lot of courses, it's not an endpoint. It was a goal. To where we're at, though, with a lot of that 15%, you start finding things such as student interest. What is available and possible based upon credentials issued by a teacher or that a teacher has at one building and doesn't at the other. Some facility limitations at another. So happy to produce that list and show those items. There are still areas where what we noted as this will be a phase 2, phase 3 conversation about this particular misalignment. A lot of those, rightfully so, the question of curricular impact, that how do we transition away from one way of doing things to the other will take some time and thoughtfulness that we just didn't feel in a year's time could happen that way. So I think you'll see that number fluctuate based upon those factors, but I feel confident we'll hover around that 80% the rest of the way forward.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. That just helps put something tangible to what is, what seems to be not quite large at times, and you hear one or two that are different between the schools, and it's really either a smaller number or something you can go and look at it. Oh, wait, this makes sense. There was interest this year. that school offers us the following year, whatever the reasons are, but anything to help us track that would be
Absolutely.
appreciated.
Okay, Mr. Bretek, thank you again, Dr. Dreezy, Dr. Solis, Ms. Kim, and everyone else who's been working on this. This is a great, great effort and greatly appreciate it. Item 8 on our agenda is a summary of the meeting. We did not have community comment this evening. We did have excellent board and superintendent reports, efforts by Dr. Johns to work to get some sort of amendment to the PTA ordinance for Cook County. We had, as usual, it's always great to hear about the athletic accomplishments. We had wonderful homecoming stories, advocacy for mental health. We like to see our students get out on all sorts of areas and issues, and it's wonderful to hear that story, as well as the academic achievement demonstrated for the National Merit semifinalists. We did have pass our consent agenda without change. We had our hearing on the 24-25 fiscal year budget and then went ahead and adopted that budget. And we just had a report on our curriculum improvement efforts going forward. Very important work and tied into our strategic plan as well. Item 9 on our agenda are possible topics for future board meetings. Please pass those along if you have any to Dr. Johns or me. Item 10, closed session. We do have closed session this evening to consider. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine the validity, security procedures, and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual threatened or reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or public property pursuant to sections 2C1 and 2C8 of the Open Meetings Act.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Students, thank you for coming. We're now going to move into our closed session where we have to be confidential, but we really appreciate you coming and joining us this evening. Good luck with your studies and civics and everything else. You just tell us when, good sir.
And Mr. Dowdy, we are ready.
Item 11, possible action regarding topics discussed in closed session. We have none. Item 12, adjournment. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing discussion on the motion, hearing none. Voice vote?
Dr. Sandberg?
Oh, you're good.
Oh, no.
Well, you had to roll call it? Okay, roll call it. Heck, you're all in.
No.
I'm
All in
fine,
favor?
yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:01.
Thank you, folks.